John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. John Anik and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love him. I can't get enough of him.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, John Anik and Kenny Florian.
All right, we are going to spin things forward here. Still a few things to get to on that Vegas event, but we are going to call on our handicapper, Brian Petrie, on social media. You can find him at Brian Petrie MMA, also the host of the MMA Takes podcast. And Brian Petrie is now doing our pronunciation of the week in addition to our main event challenge. It was essentially something that was suggested by a longtime Anik and Florian podcast listener. What's up, handsome?
Hey, boys, what's going on?
So a Cincinnati Reds World Series champions T-shirt, that must be old. When did they last win the World Series?
1990. I am the big hardcore Bengals fan. I am a fair weather Reds fan. They're doing good right now. So your boy had to bust out the shirt. We got some young kids and we 8, 9 in a row. I don't know how much it is, but we're an exciting team. So going to take the girls to a game here soon because the stadium's awesome.
A great American ballpark.
Yeah, it's a nice stadium. It's really dope.
All right, so I have a lot of things to get to with you. Your wife accepted my request to follow her on Instagram. So
yeah,
now
she's very excited. She's very excited.
My world has been opened up to your daughter, Winnie Petrie. And if I don't know if I want to invest in this child's future necessarily, but I would buy stock in Winnie Petrie. I mean, what a winning name, Winnie Petrie. She's like cuter than you. I mean, this girl's got it all.
Yeah, she's pretty incredible. Yeah, so I have two daughters. I have Winnie, which I named. People think it's from the Wonder Years or Winnie the Pooh. It's actually, I grew up, my father was a movie head, and Wall Street, Gordon Gekko's daughter was Winnie. And I was like, that's the greatest name I've ever heard. Yeah, dude. So when I got married to my wife and we were having kids, I said, listen, I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. We got a girl, her name's Winnie. And my wife's like, done. And then my wife, now I have another daughter named Hazel. But yeah, it was Winnie's birthday. We're at the beach. Winnie's birthday. She is the funniest, cutest little thing I've ever seen. Going into first grade, she's taller than everyone in her kindergarten class. I mean, she's going to be 6'2". I'm encouraging volleyball right now or MMA, whatever she wants to do. But yeah, she's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Well, I hope you had a good Father's Day. It's great to have you back with us. One thing that I did want to get to with you, and certainly would take your thoughts on Cannonier and Vettori on the back end, but you did have a 4-unit trigger on Christian Leroy Duncan. So that was a minus, I think, $660 wager for you in our main event challenge. That was one fight that we did not get to earlier with Ken Flo. I thought he had his moments, but at times against Armen Petrosyan, seemed like maybe he was treating it more like a sparring session. There wasn't necessarily the urgency there. I know how high Sean Sheehan is on CLD. I remain optimistic, but certainly a setback for him here. Your thoughts on that fight between Petrosyan and CLD?
Yeah, so I got a lot of messages like, dude, you sold me a dud. Like, well, he's a fraud. I'm not going to throw the F word out yet. He's 6-0, 8-0, excuse me. But I love cocky fighters. I love when guys go in there like Max Holloway, like, let's go, right? This dude's turning his back. He's throwing, he's getting flashy, but there's no substance to it. Like, you're not doing anything, my guy. Like, these are all great stuff. But Petrosyan saw him coming a mile away. His kicks are very good. Hands need a bit of work. You know, he just throwing these wild kicks. But, you know, he's getting kind of cocky and flashy, and Petrosyan's just staying in his lane. And, you know, 30-27. Well, the third round was very close. But, yeah. And then the takedowns weren't there. They were kind of sloppy. He didn't really shoot much. It was kind of more of like a body lock. And Petrosyan looked like the bigger guy in there. I threw a dud out there. I mean, listen, I won. I would have had, if he would have won, I had a great night. I'm up $2. $2 whole because I put a lot in CLD there. And that's on me. But yeah, you know, it just wasn't there for me. You know, I was a swing and a miss for sure.
Well, and I like the aggression, right? Because I'm going to be paying the price with you when it comes to this punishment in the main event challenge. And you had a 3-1 weekend. Ken Flo goes 1-3, and yet you lose the week, right?
I know. I had a good week other than that.
You did have a good week going 3-1. I wanted to quickly get your thoughts on the main event if I could. Sure. And I don't know if Marvin Vettori's conditioning is what deserves the credit for his ability to just absorb punishment. And like, what is it going to take for a man to put Marvin Vettori away. I mean, it makes me think like Bear. Oh fuck!
We just lost audio.
Cody, you got to keep all this. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
You got to keep all of this.
We've gone viral 2 weeks in a row, boys.
Cody, can you hear me?
Yeah. Holy
you guys got to keep all of this. Can you guys hear me?
Dude.
Yeah, we got
That's
All right, you got me now?
We
Sorry,
got
Mom.
you. Oh, my goodness.
All right, Cody, you got to keep all of this, okay?
sorry, Mom.
So,
I think my falling down story inspired John.
yeah, so
Sorry,
I just,
Marco. So we're going to have to let the suit out a little bit.
No, I'm in shape.
I heard it.
I'm in shape. I'm in shape. It's not that I'm out of shape, Cody. Sorry, Mom. So I'm doing the podcast from my mom's house. Holy shit. Mom, can you bring me a towel, please? So,
wow.
What is going on?
this is great. Cody's going to have a field
2
day with
weeks
this
in a
on social
row,
media.
dude.
So I'm doing the podcast from my mom's house. If you're audio only, I just leaned back in my chair. The whole chair snapped. You need some new fucking chairs, Mom, if I'm being honest, but I love you. Thank you. So my chair just snapped in half. DraftKings Network paying for all this. So my chair just snapped in half as we were talking about something. Holy shit.
We're talking,
New chairs and meatloaf.
we're talking about the main event.
I think you have a strong lawsuit against your mom, dude. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think we can win one.
Her insurance are coming
just-
out.
Oh my
I'm just curious how much of my audio you still got when I was like, we're good though. We're good. So we were talking about.
No shit. I already know shit.
All right. I was like, I went back, and then it seemed as though maybe I would be able to. And then I was like, no, the
I
chair's
heard the
going.
chair break. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that chair broke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I kind of wish I was like 170 pounds today, but I'm not like inherently out of shape right now. But yeah, no, so I guess I've always marveled at the conditioning of these two athletes in particular, Kenny and Brian, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're two of the hardest workers at 185 pounds or otherwise. Like in the entire UFC, I think Cannonier and Vettori are two of the hardest workers. You never have to worry about that. And Brian, I would just ask you about Marvin's ability to just take damage and not be put away. I don't know what you chalk it up to. I know you did pick Jared Cannonier to win the fight, but what were your thoughts on a pretty outstanding main event?
So we're 2 for 2 for viral moments. That's going to be bigger than last week when you snapped, about the technical. But I saw that on media outlets I didn't even know, which is great. Anyway, back to the main event. There's a lot of I've really actually dug into this of why people have good chins. George Savella, one of the greatest boxers of all time, one of the best chins. He has a YouTube video. He's like, oh, it's a short neck, it's a wide jaw, it's a big head. Justin Gaethje thinks it's like mental, right? Like Tony Ferguson doesn't have any of those things, but you couldn't put him out with anything, right? So it's interesting to me. I've really dove into the psychological with this. And Marvin Vettori does have a big head, but I think it's his will and his mind. Like he's not going down because the cardio obviously plays a factor as well. But in the second round, which was close to a 10-8, he was gassed, it looked like. I mean, he was not on his second win, and he was taking big shots, very close to being stopped. His face was getting marked up. He obviously was firing back as the heart of a lion. But yeah, I don't know what you're going to do. I heard someone on the broadcast say, oh, you got to kick him in the head. Paulo Costa did that. Clean kick to the head, nothing, right?
Right.
You're gonna have to take it back to him. It's insane. And the reason I picked Cannonier is because I was monitoring his socials and he looked a little leaner. And I think he was like Kenny pointed out, he's not the most active guy. He's slot selection typically. He's not throwing a lot of strikes. But for this fight, Marvin Vettori's defense is not great. And I thought Cannonier put in a training camp to keep this pace, and he sure did. Broke records. 5th round, he was still going for it. Crazy stuff. I have a Jared Cannonier by decision 300 ticket, and I was sweating the whole fight because even though Marvin Vettori's tough, I'm like, oh, Brad, he's toast. He's done. But just a heart of a warrior. And I contribute to really just physically the way he's built because he's huge too. Yeah, I couldn't believe how he dwarfed Cannonier, right? And then just the mindset as well. Obviously being in phenomenal cardio shape as well. Hard worker in the room.
Dude,
but
yeah.
Crazy.
Dude, and how about Cannonier winning the wrestling battle? If I told you before the fight that Cannonier would out-wrestle Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori never hit one takedown in that fight. Cannonier hit one like 2 or 3 or something. So anyways.
Nice
one. Good point. And I will say, to your point, Petrie, like the visual of Marvin Vettori after round 1, I know he doesn't take the stool, but putting both hands over the octagon, like he was toast after those first 5 minutes, and he found that second gear and found that wind. And I might have even had a 10-8 for Cannonier in that second round. All right.
Close. Yeah.
Here's how we stand right now. Petrie is minus 2780. Kenny Florian minus $20 on the year. Ken Flo 1-3, minus 275. Petrie 3-1, but it was a minus 360 on the week. We got 8 fights to pick for Jacksonville, men. I feel like all 8 fights are worthy of predictions. All of these odds, all of these betting lines right now are live on DraftKings Sportsbook. We begin with a prelim in the strawweight division. 15th ranked Tabitha Richie, Baby Shark minus 125. Jillian Robertson is plus 105. Bri Robertson, most decorated submission artist in UFC women's history. Now her second straight at strawweight after an extended and productive run at flyweight. Your thoughts on Richie and Robertson here in an ESPN prelim?
I like to move the strawweight, and I got to shout out Tatum Temple, fan of myself. She tracks all my bets on Bet MMA Tips. So handicappers, that's what they do. Like, hey, you got to track your bets. So she does all that for me. She's great. She's a sharp as well, really sharp in the female. She just messaged me on IG and said, put everything on Jillian Robertson. Unfortunately, though, I like Tabitha Richie. I like Baby Shark here. Jillian Robertson is very good on the ground, and Tabitha Richie, besides the Fior fight, really likes to take the fight to the ground, but she's got tight arms. She keeps her jiu-jitsu tight, short little arms. Jillian Robertson's best, she's got great jiu-jitsu, but her best ability off her back and even on top is arm bars. Don't know if she's hitting an arm bar. Could be a choke. But Baby Shark, I think, is slowly really starting to find her groove in UFC. Hasn't fought the high-level women's besides Manafort. But I like Baby Shark here at this baby number, minus 125. I think this line's going to maybe move a lot this week. We're doing this obviously early in the week. Am I going to run to the window? No. But give me Tabitha Richie. I think she wins the decision.
Richie, a slight favorite right now. Jillian Robertson continues to look for new training environments. I saw her at Roger Crawl's MMA Science Academy a few weeks ago. A lot of people like her in this division, Ken Flo, but a tough matchup here against Baby Shark Tabitha Richie. Which way are you going?
Yeah, for sure. This is a tricky one. Richie can grapple, man. And I think she's a decent striker as well. But I'm leaning Robertson here. I do like Jillian. I've seen her train. Very dedicated to the game. I think she has one of the best ground games in the UFC. Period. I think she's going to be riding high on confidence. Has some momentum here, and I like her in this fight. I think it's going to come down to grappling eventually, and I think she's going to surprise Richie on the ground how good she is. Richie again, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a good team. I think it's going to be close, but I like Jillian.
Nice.
And Dean Thomas will be chiefing the corner of one Jillian Robertson. And one thing Dean said to me recently, he trains fighters to finish. And he was sort of responding to a conversation that I had opened up with him about offensive jiu-jitsu. And I said, every week I'm banging this drum with Kenny talking about offensive jiu-jitsu. And he's like, if you notice, my fighters, we train to finish. And Jillian Robertson is certainly a great example of that. All right, at welterweight, Randy Brown, minus 245, Wellington Turman, plus 205. So Rude Boy had won 4 in a row, ran into the Jack Della Maddalena train in Perth earlier this year at UFC 284, now faces the divisional newcomer Wellington Turman. He fought the first 14 fights of his pro career as a 170-pound fighter, but the entire 7-fight run for Wellington Turman in the UFC has been at middleweight, perhaps training alongside Alex Pineda there in Danbury, Connecticut, gave him pause about an extended run at 85. BP, we'll start with you. Randy Brown, minus 245, Wellington Turman, plus 205.
Rude Boy. I think Rude Boy is going to be a lot of mortal locks this week. I think a lot of cappers going to run to the window and go, lock this guy up. I think it's a little high. Problem with this fight, I'm picking Rude Boy. Wellington cutting 170, but Wellington is very aggressive with his takedowns. He does have good jiu-jitsu. And when Randy Brown gets taken down and put on his back, we were just talking about Dean Thomas's offensive jiu-jitsu. There's not much. It's a closed guard game. He tries to work up sometimes, but he's a big 70, so he's not trying to waste his energy. There's really nothing there. So I can see Wellington Turman really dragging this fight out if he has cardio cutting that weight. Problem is, I do think Wellington Turman had a little bit of a chin problem at 185, cutting down to 170. You think, I'm going to be the big dog on the block. Not with Randy Brown. I think Randy Brown has good footwork, good movement, long range strikes. I think if he can avoid the takedowns, he can finish Wellington Turman. Don't know if a finish is going to happen. Minus 245, little steep for your boy. Could be a parlay piece if you really love Randy Brown, but I'm going to shy away. But my pick is Rude Boy.
Kenflo, Randy Brown tried to change his professional life by accepting that Jack Della Maddalena fight in the belly of the beast on the road. It did not go his way. Now he'll try to get untracked against Wellington Turman. Which way you going here?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be part of the reason that we see a much better Randy Brown this time around. I think he has so much potential. We've talked about this before. Great length for the division. Excellent jab when it's firing. I think he needs to get that volume going in this fight. But he definitely needs to be able to stop the takedowns here against Wellington. I think Wellington is a problem on the ground and a very interesting style matchup for Randy here. But I like Randy in this matchup. I think the odds are a little bit high. I do see some value in Wellington Turman, but I'm sticking with a Rude Boy.
Nice.
All right, third final preliminary fight that we will pick today. Again, don't forget, first fight like 11:30 a.m. this weekend on ESPN, main card 3 p.m. Eastern time, live on ABC. Also at welterweight, the division's all-time wins leader, Neil Magny, minus 150 here against Phil Rowe, who is plus 130. Rowe's won 10 of 11 Bryce since starting his MMA career at 0-2. 3 straight knockouts, TKOs have set up the biggest fight of Phil Rowe's career. This matchup with Neil Magny, pretty close on paper. Bry, which way are you going?
What Neil Magny is going to show up? I mean, this is a guy who's fought 50 times. What does that mean? The guy's been around forever. Is it the Daniel Rodriguez Neil Magny where he looked great and was like, hey, I'm going to take this dude down. I'm going to beat him up. I'm going to submit him. Or is it the Neil Magny who looks flat? Phil Rowe is a guy he's been in the UFC for a little bit, and he's not the most active guy. He's also doesn't have the most wins, the best wins. I mean, you can go out there and sleep Jason Witt. Cool, but now you got now you got Neil Magny here. I actually like the number on Neil Magny. I thought it'd be a little bit higher. Phil Rowe, coming off a good knockout win. He was kind of losing that fight. He's getting outstruck, but found the chin. Neil Magny is durable. You're not going to find Neil Magny's chin, but again, it's all about Neil. What Neil shows up. I see takedowns. Phil Rowe has been doing a lot of grappling outside the UFC. He's comfortable as back. He's tricky. He's long. Him and Neil are built very the same, but Neil uses that reach so well. And I think the X factor is the grappling. Give me Neil Magny for another dub.
Kenflo, Neil Magny's made a career of winning fights like this. He is 20-9 in the UFC. Your thoughts on him as a slight favorite here against the adopted Floridian Phil Rowe?
Yeah, this is a very tricky one because of that. They are very similar in height and build. I think that Phil definitely has some good momentum heading into this fight. Neil Magny is definitely going to have a superior jab. I'm curious to see who wins the takedown game. I don't know if the fight necessarily won or lost there, but I do think it's going to play a major factor. And I agree with Brian. That was one thing that I kept going back to. I know Phil's really crushing the grappling training and training with some high-level guys, but I see value there for Phil. And Neil has a ton of experience, but it's hard to go with someone who has been inconsistent. And I don't know. I think Phil has some consistency now. I think he's going to have confidence here. And this is a fight. If he wants to start to get more high-profile fights, he needs a win like this over someone like Neil Magny. No easy task, but I think there's value enough for me to go Phil Rowe's way here.
Nice.
Phil Rowe plus 130 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, and he has put in the training camp of his life. We'll see if it produces the desired result this weekend on ESPN. All right, before we get to the main card, I would like to circle back to the pronunciation of the week.
Let's go.
Brian Petrie is now going to handle this exercise moving forward. You knew we had to start with a Brazilian.
Of course.
Because we thought maybe you'd add some melody to it. But this is a flyweight who competes against Tatsuro Taira this weekend. He fights out of Amapa, Brazil. Initials KR. That is also his nickname. KR. Brian Petrie. Of whom am I speaking?
So I didn't listen to the file. I did practice. Okay. I don't practice anything, right? I take a couple notes, don't practice. I did practice in the mirror. So I'm going to go Kletzen Rodriguez.
Yes.
That fucking nail it or what? I mean, can we hear the file?
Close. Yeah, we'll hear it.
Cleidson Rodrigues.
Cleidson Rodrigues, KR. Cleidson Rodrigues, KR.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. I mean, I don't know if you nailed it. Ken Flo is our expert here, right? But it sounded like there were two different people saying Cleidson Rodrigues. So that's what we go with on broadcast, Cleidson Rodrigues. But the nickname, he says Ka-Ehe, or Ka-Ehe, right? Which is KR.
Yeah.
So we don't go Ka-Ehe on the broadcast, like we go KR, Cleidson Rodrigues. I don't know if your first name was good enough, Brian, to give you the point.
No, of course not.
It was close, though. It was close. That was a good effort, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then I just have one more file that we are just going to play, and this is just for fun because I know Ken Flo has a healthy appreciation for this. So Kenny has called a PFL fight involving Loic Rajabov, right? But this weekend, Loic Rajabov in Jacksonville is fighting a very talented UFC lightweight by the name of Mateusz Rambetsky, right? It's spelled Rebecki, so it looks like Rebecki on paper. The Polish names historically are the most challenging for us on the UFC telecast. So Mateusz we know because of Mateusz Gamrot, who's also Polish. But let's hear how Mateusz Rambecki, or whatever the fuck it is, says his name. And then I want to hear how Kenny thinks I should say this on broadcast.
I'm Mateusz Rambecki. I'm Mateusz Rambecki.
Rambetsky.
Right. So, but there is an N in there, right?
Yeah.
So the name begins R-E-B, and we're saying Rambetsky or whatever, right? So it's just I thought that'd be pretty cool for fans to, right? The word starts R-E-B, and my phonetic begins R-O-U-N. Like, it's insane. You know, Joanna Jędrzejczyk told us way back in the day, like, your mouths cannot make the sounds necessary to pronounce Polish names correctly. So we'll leave it at that. All right, let us get to the main card, boys. Thanks for indulging me on the pronunciation of the week. We'll begin with a huge fight at middleweight, live on ABC. 13th ranked contender Brendan Allen -165. Bruno Silva is +140. Brendan Allen is one of the best middleweights in the world, in my opinion, Kenny. He's won 4 in a row, 5 of 6. Always willing to prove his status as one of the best middleweights in the world. As such, accepting a fight here against the uber dangerous Bruno Silva. Silva coming off a TKO win over Brad Tavares not all that long ago on April 22nd. We'll start with Ken Flo here. Brendan Allen, the favorite, or Bruno Silva, the dog?
Yeah, so Brendan Allen, I think, has some great momentum heading into this fight. As you mentioned, I think he has an extremely well-rounded game, perhaps a more well-rounded game than Bruno Silva. I don't know if he hits as hard as Bruno Silva, but I think he's got more weapons. He just needs to go out there and use them all in this fight, including his grappling. And I think if he does that, he'll be able to outpoint Bruno Silva. But Bruno Silva is extremely durable. Okay, we saw him go 15 full minutes against Pereira. I think he's an excellent kickboxer. He's got big-time knockout power. So Brendan Allen really has to be very defensively responsible in this one for sure. Can't give him any free shots. But I think where Brendan Allen can maybe do well here in this fight is kind of grounding him out, getting him tired, using a grappling heavy game in this one. But Bruno is extremely dangerous. He's always dangerers. So got to watch for this one. I'm actually going to sit out this one. No for this one. I'm going to be I'll be over here. Brian.
I like that. No, I like that. And it's an important reminder for the audience. These guys can abstain from one selection. They can also pick an additional prelim fight that's not on the board. Brian Petrie, Brendan Allen -165, Bruno Silva +140. Will you have a selection?
I love what Ken Flo did there because this fight is just trouble. This could be trouble for my bank account. This could be trouble for a lot of things because I like Bruno Silva. But Brendan Allen is so hot right now, and he's really finding his groove. He's so young as well. Problem is Brendan Allen's been hit before, and he's been put out before. Bruno Silva can knock anybody out. But you look at the Jared Mursgard fight, and Brendan Allen's a more athletic, more aggressive Jared Mursgard, in my opinion. And Jared Mursgard bodied Bruno Silva. But I really think that loss from Bruno Silva, back-to-back losses, I think that changed him a little bit. He looked rejuvenated in the Brad Tavares fight. He's a veteran as well. And Bruno Silva's career Achilles heel has been submissions. Brendan Allen, coming off the Andre Muniz submission, is riding high in confidence. Like, dude, if I get someone on the ground, I'm taking something, right? I love the confidence by this young man. but Bruno Silva's got that one touch. And I think if Brendan Allen, and he's got 71% takedown defense as well. So Brendan Allen, who I don't think has the best takedowns, is big for the weight class, could take Bruno Silva down. I think he's going to struggle a little bit. And if you get touched by Bruno Silva, he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's got good time. He's got big power. And you're hanging plus 140, 150 on me. You know I'm going to take the dog shot. So give me the dog shot, Bruno Silva. I hate picking against it because I know come Saturday when I'm sitting there in front of the TV ready to place bets, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to convince myself, and I'm going to be like, what am I fucking doing? Because Brandon Allen's a very good fighter, and he can easily win this fight. This is a really good fight.
All right, big fight at 85. We'll see how it plays out. Next up at featherweight, Gabriel Santos minus 230, David Onama plus 195. Onama's been out a while, hasn't fought since the loss to Nate Landwehr last August. He has had a couple of fight cancellations thus far this year. And then on the other side, Bri, how about Gabriel Santos, right? Definitely looked ready for the big show in his debut, short notice against Lerone Murphy at UFC 286. I would argue he might have won the fight. One of the judges actually gave him all 3 rounds. So now Santos spins it forward, perhaps prohibitively favored against a talented David Onama. Which way you go?
I mean, Lerone Murphy, I have high regards for. So Gabriel Santos immediately made my big board of guys to watch after that performance. His performances outside the UFC before getting in the UFC is very good too. His record is pretty balanced. It's not like weak. You know, you see a lot of weak records sometimes. But David Onama is a really good fighter. I mean, I know he lost to Nate Landwehr, and we're not going to say his name, but there's a head coach that I don't want to get a blow dart in my neck by the commission, but there's a head coach that used to coach this guy, and that kind of unraveled everything after his fight. But Onama's very good, and he's good on the ground as well. That's interesting. He's big. He's good on the ground. My problem with Onama is his defense, right? His defense really isn't there. He's got great punches, doesn't overwhelm you in volume. He's big, hadn't shown a ton of power yet. The Mason Jones fight, though, showed incredible heart and cardio. Oh, yeah. Nate Landwehr fight, though, he kind of broke. So I'm a little curious of what Onama's going to show up. And I get the googly eyes. I mean, CLD burned me last week because of the googly eyes. So I'm not going to get the googly eyes for Santos, even though I think he's a great guy. And when you're giving me plus 195 against David Onama, who is a great prospect, that's a big number. I think he can win this fight. And again, I'm looking at value, and that's a value play. You play the number, not the fighter. I think Onama can go out there, win the decision, possibly take over the fight. So give me David Onama. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, I was way off in terms of my prediction for what this betting line would be. I thought Santos would be minus 175. He's minus 230 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Ken Flo, any value for you on Onama, or do you like the chalk selection, Gabriel Santos?
Oh, I definitely think there's some value on Onama. I wonder where his head is at after that loss against Landwehr. I know in January he went over to Colorado, is training over at Factory X now, which may be a good change for him. But you don't become a great grappler overnight. You don't become a great grappler in 6 months. And I think some of the things I saw on the ground against Landwehr was troubling, to be honest. You know, his grappling has to be way better than that. And I think that's why we see this number here for Santos, who could be a problem on the ground. Now, Santos could be a problem on the feet as well. I don't know if he wants to stand for 15 minutes against someone like Onama. I think Onama is going to be very dangerous. But the other hesitation for me in Onama is the condition. You know, he just completely gassed out in that fight. Obviously, at an insane pace against Landwehr, but I think that hurt him. Santos can go, dude. He can go hard for 15 minutes. I think he can mix things up for 15 minutes. Where he needs to be careful, though, is standing in front of Onama for too long. I see value for Onama. I'm hesitant. I'm going to stick with Santos here unless I see something different on this fight week here. But I'm going with the Brazilian, Santos.
Nice.
We like the disagreement. That's at least 2 so far, and 3 technically if you count Ken Flo's no selection on Bruno Silva and Brendan Allen. All right, at heavyweight, Justin Tougha minus 180, Austin Lane plus 155. So this fight was promoted to the ABC main card. Largely, I think, because Austin Lane is local. He fights out of Jacksonville, Florida. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 5th round of the 2010 NFL draft. Second highest draftee to cross into the UFC. Marcus Jones was a first-round pick. Greg Hardy was picked in round 6. And 5 years after we all watched Austin Lane get knocked out by Greg Hardy on Dana White's Contender Series, he has put in the work. He has arrived at the UFC debut. And now Justin Badman Tougha awaits. Brian Petrie, who do you like in the heavyweight matchup here?
Some big boys. Yeah, I loved Austin Lane. I mean, that could have been the last we saw of him when he got knocked out by Greg Hardy. You know, it's like, two former NFL guys, but he lost his next fight after that by knockout. And then now he's really putting together. That's a good mental toughness there. As far as skills go, he's athletic, obviously, with his previous background. I don't love the way he strikes necessarily, in my opinion. I think Tougha is a heavy hitter. I think Austin Lane's head is very hittable. His chin's up in the air. His hands are there. He wants to hit, and then he'll be like, I can take a hit, but let me hit you because he believes in his power. Wrong way to go against Justin Tougha, the bad man. This dude can fucking crack. He's starting to really kind of shore up his cardio as well. I mean, he's not the best cardio, but he's gone, he's lost some ugly losses, but he's gone his last two. I want to see him a little more active here. Hopefully these breaks away. He's working his takedown defense. He's working his get up game. This guy's not going to be Frank Mir off his back anytime soon. So let's get up off the mat. Give me Tougha by knockout. That's a prop I liked as well. Probably not going to be the juiciest number because Austin Lane has been knocked out before, and that's all Tougha does, knock people out. But that's a play I like here. I would avoid the money line. I like Tougha by KO. You can probably even go KO round one, get even juicier. But that's to be selected another day. Give me Tougha.
Yeah, Tougha right now minus 180 on the money line, probably closer to even money or minus 120 or so if you like him by knockout.
Yeah.
Coming in off a knockout of Parker Porter at UFC 284 in Perth. Inactivity has been part of the narrative on Tougha, missed all of 2022. Kenflo, your thoughts on bad man Tougha here against Austin Lane?
And for Tougha also, I wonder sometimes about maybe perhaps work ethic. He's missed weight a couple times, I think, and I wonder about that. But he definitely has a lot of talent on the feet, man. He is a problem. I think for Austin Lane, who at 6'6" is an absolute monster, I think he's going to try to take this fight to the ground. He'll use his strikes from the outside, then try to take him down, probably up against the cage or something like that. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that against Tougha. I think Topha's a lot sharper with his wrestling. It's still very, very vulnerable on his back, as Brian alluded to. But I think he's got enough to keep it on the feet and land one of those big shots. I like Justin Tougha here, and I'm willing to put 2 units on it for that one. So.
2 unis, $360 to pay $200 on Justin Bad Man.
I just want to clarify something. Please. I think Kenny is so sharp. The minute he puts extra units on people, I place that fucking bet. I'm not even kidding. That's this guy right here. I know we're in a competition. I'm supposed to, talk a little shit, whatever. No. This is the guy that I follow right here, man. So I love that.
Right. Still trying to support Winnie Petrie at the end of the day.
Yeah, got to make money.
Yeah. All right. Co-main event at flyweight. 9th ranked Amanda Hebos, minus 165, taking on number 11, Macy Barber, who is plus 140. As you guys know, Hebos has contended in 2 divisions, outpointed Viviane Araujo at UFC 285 back in March. And on the other side, how about Macy Barber, right? Don't look now. 4 wins in a row, BP.
Mm-hmm.
On the heels of a 2-fight skid and that February 2021 loss to the now champ Alexa Grasso. She's essentially been perfect ever since. Your thoughts on her here in a huge spot against Amanda Hebos?
So they might have to change my name from Big Gun to Dog the Bounty Hunter because I'm scooping up all these dogs. I love Macy Barber here. Listen, Amanda Hebos has landing a lot of takedowns her last fight. Macy Barber, last 4 fights, has been taken down every single time. But she works her way to the feet. And if Macy Barber comes out with that bad bitch mean attitude, and Amanda Hebos is hittable and has been finished before on the feet, I like that. I feel like Macy Barber, though, she started off really hot. The knee injury, losing to Roxy. She hasn't really found her way yet, right? And there's been a lot of fights or whatever, but I do think she's going to start slowly finding her way. She said she wanted to be the youngest champ. That's now gone. Let's get some wins. And a big win over Amanda Hebos is going to put you right there. Plus 155. I think this is going to be a close fight. I think this is going to be, you're holding your ticket, seeing what kind of judges are on this night, see what Jacksonville's got to have for us. But I like Macy Barber here, man, the younger, aggressive fighter. I love Amanda Hebos, her disposition. She seems like the nicest, sweetest girl in the world, easy to root for. But, I'm not trying to make friends here. Plus 155, give me Macy Barber.
All right, Kenflo, Macy Barber, Amanda Hebos, which way you going?
All right, for those that are watching on video, let's see if we can see Brian squirm in his chair here. I love this fight. This is very interesting, and Macy Barber is extremely tough, man. She's going to fight to the very end. I just think this is a very difficult matchup for her because I think she does her best work when she is taking people down. Can she take down Hebos here, who is a judo black belt? I don't think so. I think Hebos is going to be a little too technical on the feet for her. I think they're about even when it comes to striking. Maybe Macy has a little bit more power. I think Hebos needs to be aware there. But, I don't know if one can finish the other. But I like Hebos here. I like Hebos here so much. I want to put 3 units on Amanda Hebos. I think she's going to be able to hit takedowns. I think she's going to be able to stop the takedowns of Macy Barber. I think Macy's going to get frustrated here, and Hebos finds a way to win. So
look at this guy pulling out.
I just made him nervous there.
Well, now what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm rocking with Barber. That was a fight that gave me the most trouble, and I dove into the archives, and I'm like, man, I just think Barber can get a decision here.
So you have up to 5 units to extend. Ken Flo's going a 2-unit play on Justin Tougha and a 3-unit $495 wager on Amanda Hebos. Don't have to tell the audience that fight, that co-main event this weekend, a massive swing between these two gentlemen. All right, right back to Ken Flo to lead us off for the main event in the men's featherweight division. Wide price here right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Ilia Topuria minus 330. So a $330 straight bet on Topuria would yield $100 back. Josh Emmett is plus 275. As you guys know, this fight is taking place just 2 weeks prior to Alexander Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez unifying the titles in this division. Emmett's fought Rodriguez for the interim belt in Perth earlier this year. Largely, he was dominated by a very on-point Yair Rodriguez. Topuria's never lost, undefeated, Kenny. He submitted Bryce Mitchell last December to move to 13-0. 5-0 with 4 finishes in the UFC. Kenny, your thoughts on Topuria in a main event here live on ABC against Josh Emmett?
Dude, right now my brain is doing shuttle runs back and forth between Emmett and Topuria to this moment. But, when I break it down and I'm thinking about value plays here, I look at both of their games here, but I think there's great value on Emmett, a guy who has so much experience. I think Topuria is very fundamentally sound. We have seen him hit. We have seen him hurt. We've seen him battle back. But I don't know if you battle back against a shot like Emmett's. If Emmett hits you, he hurts you, and you don't really come back. Emmett has great killer instinct when he gets you out of there. And I think, assuming he still is in this game mentally, physically, spiritually, I have to imagine he's going to learn a lot from that last fight against Yair Rodriguez. I don't see Topuria having that type of Yair type speed. Very few do. There's like maybe top 0.1% of the UFC have that kind of speed. Topuria, he's fast, he's not slow, but he's more, the pace that he keeps is more this consistent rhythm. There's a movement, and Emmett does well against those kind of guys. He can get his timing against guys like that, and that's what worries me in this fight. Topuria, I think if he's able to take down Emmett, I think that's his best path to victory. Can he do that against Emmett, though? And can he do that consistently? I'm not so sure. So Emmett does have to be careful with his kicks, especially. He doesn't want those kicks to get caught and have Topuria on top of him. That's where Topuria can not only win this fight, but finish this fight. But I think there's enough value for Emmett here for me, where at plus 275, I like it. I have a lot of respect for Topuria. I think this is a guy who could definitely fight for the belt in the future. But I think Emmett still, if he's mentally, physically, spiritually in it, I like Emmett here. I think he can get this win.
And I do believe that he is mentally, physically, and spiritually still in it. I believe he feels like now, after the Yair Rodriguez result, this is the last-ditch effort to make one final concerted effort. Yeah. It is crazy to me, Bri, to see a plus 275 next to Josh Emmett, just given the fact that Ilia Topuria is a little bit untested in the UFC. And for sure. I say that with all due respect to Bryce Mitchell and the strength of his schedule, but Josh Emmett has spent years against this division's elite. So with that backdrop, Any value for you on Hemet, or are you bullish on Topuria at minus 330 or otherwise?
I mean, of course, when you hang up plus 270 on a guy like Josh Hemet, yeah, you're looking at it. You're looking at it good. And I like the quick turn. This is a guy who usually fights and breaks his whole body, takes 18 months off, and he comes back, right? Quick turn against a brutal fight. I mean, Yair Rodriguez, I don't know who, maybe Alexander Volkanovski, but I don't know who else was beating him that night. He was on fucking fire. And Hemet took some hellacious shots and obviously got finished on the ground. Topuria is a guy who I have faded. I mean, I picked Bryce Mitchell against him. That was one of my bad takes, my bad bets. I mean, I was there live. I saw it. Bryce got ragdogged. No, he had the flu or whatever, but I keep getting my own way because I know Topuria goes American Top Team, but he does a lot of his camps out in Spain. Spain's not like a hotbed for MMA. There's not like a ton of guys out there. So I get my own head going, well, he's not really training with anybody, right? But then you watch the guy's skills. His boxing is phenomenal. His strength is there as well. He's popped up to 55. Got hurt by Jai Herbert. Now he's 45, which I think the compact body, his strength is there. Speed kills, right? Emmett's timing is really good. He's fast. He's not the slowest guy in the division. Big power, but his timing is really fucking good. And Topuria's got to be on his toes. And I'm like Kenny, I was back and forth on this as well. But since Kenny has laid his dick out on the table 3-4 times with the 3-unit, 2-unit, I got to do something. I thought, hey, I'm not going to add extra units because I'm taking a lot of dogs here. Give me 5 unis on Topuria because I need to get back in this, baby. 5 unis on Topuria.
Dang.
I mean, that's the way to do
My
it,
hands
bro.
are sweaty now.
That is perhaps the largest singular bet of the year. $1,650 on Ilia Topuria to win 500. For Brian Petrie, for whom fear is just not a factor. And if you want more from him, it's at Brian Petrie MMA. Glad you're home safely, buddy. Best to the family. And we'll talk to you next Monday, if not sooner.
I got to get this in, Johnny. I got a prelim pick. I got to get it in because, I need the points.
Who we got?
So I could go Zalgas again. Everyone's running from the haircut, I could go Tashura Taira, minus 300. You're going to see a lot of guys going, that's my best bet of the week. Yeah, it's minus 300, asshole. I'm going to give you a dog here. Jack Jenkins against Jamal Emmers at plus 140 screams crazy to me. Jamal Emmers has a ton of experience. Good wrestler, fought everyone. But Jack Jenkins, if he's on point, this kid's a problem. Good grappler, good striker, and you're hanging plus 140 on me. Already placed the bet. It's already locked up in DraftKings. Jack Jenkins. Let's go back.
I like that. Bar Jack Jenkins, and my apologies for shortchanging you there.
No, don't worry about it.
We appreciate the extra prelim selection. All right, well, we'll be in touch. I'm actually going to be at Disney World on Monday, so it might be Monday night or Tuesday, but we will take that off the air. Appreciate your contributions as always, kid. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, boys.
See you.
All right, that's it for the main event challenge, and we got to get on out of here. Thanks to everybody watching on the DraftKings YouTube channel, on the newly minted DraftKings Network audio side. Nothing changes. We appreciate everybody's support over the last 8 years and running. If you want merchandise from the show, you can go to AnikFlorianPodcast.com. One More Sleep merch can be found at millions.co. KennyFlorianMartialArts.com is live. Don't forget, if you are in the Boston area, Kenny's going to be at the Florian Martial Arts Center on Monday night. And also would encourage you to follow Argus Integrated Defense on Instagram as well. Trust me on that one. You'll go down a rabbit hole and you'll spend your whole day on the feed like I did. Thank you to our guests, Ray Longo and Brian Petrie. The executive producer of this fine program is Cody Merrow, who will have a lot of fun in post with me falling out of the chair and breaking it today. Thank you all for listening. We are back either Monday night or Tuesday to look back at Josh Hemet and Ilia Topuria and get you ready for another UFC live event next weekend. Until then, be well, be safe, health and happiness your way.